Okay, hi. So it's been a long time since I made my last video, and today's topic is a little bit interesting. I was talking to a VC, and that particular VC asked me like a few questions to judge me or evaluate me as a person in general. And I thought, like, why not? Like, let's answer these questions for once and all. Some of these questions, in my opinion, make sense, and some of these questions are just like it's a filtration, right? Like some of these questions are like used to filter is used to filter like the general audience, right? So I'll not waste any time and like start with the first question. What is the most ambitious goal that you have achieved, that you've like set out for yourself and like you've achieved? Um, Actually, from my recollection, which is like from like when I was 18, which is like college, uh two ambitious goals comes to my mind that I've like set out for myself and I've achieved. Back in college, we were trying a bunch of things. I was trying for like personal assistant jobs, software testing jobs, engineering, obviously. And I had this idea of like starting an agency, right? Like digital marketing agency. And at that time, like Instagram, like marketing was a huge thing. I had set this ambitious goal for myself that I'll start a digital marketing agency and I'll get my first client via cold calling. And I actually did got my first client, not actually first, but like my second client with cold calling, like through cold calling on Twitter, and that client is still my friend. So yeah, that was one ambitious goal that I had set for myself. The second ambitious goal that I had set for myself was when I was graduating college, I had tried a bunch of things like game development, personal assistant job, as I mentioned, and a bunch of things because I did not wanted to do engineering. And by the time that I realized that engineering was the thing that makes me most curious, my time was almost up. So I had to find a job somewhere to pay the bills, right? And at that time, I had set an ambitious goal for myself that I'll like not join an MNC and I'll join a startup, and that to a US-based startup, which also end up becoming true. I met my co-founder through Discord, and my co-founder believed enough in me to not take an interview. So that was a very ambitious goal that I had set for myself, which is like how to bypass all the current systems of like getting into a job and like interviewing and like just getting a job. So yeah, that these are the two ambitious goals that I set out for myself and like I accomplished based on my recollection. The second question is most difficult project that you have ever done. Um, so the most difficult project that I've ever done is not an engineering project per se. Uh, I have this thinking that like everything that you do in life is like a project, right? Like college was a project, and like from college to Commenda was a project. And I have this thing that every project should be 20% at a 20% difficulty level. Um, College was at a certain difficulty level, and when I joined my first startup as the first employee, comment out. It was very difficult project. I had to learn how to be on time, manage expectations, ship software with like enough care so that like users would not face any problem, understand the business requirements and translate that into an interface. Interacting with users in a formal setting as a kid, and I did not know how to talk to users in general. And like found like my like the founder Spencer took a bet on me. So that was really great. But in my honest opinion, Commenda was the most difficult project that I've ever done. I got to learn a lot and I fucked up a lot, but the founders were very supportive of me and supported me a lot. So yeah, that Commenda is the most difficult project that I've ever done in my life. Moving on to the next question, most underrated tech that you think is what in your opinion is the most underrated technology? Now, I think this question is like very stupid. Um, I started the startup. I like started building my own startup, thinking that I'll do engineering for most part, and it is not the case. It's a loop, right? It's loop. I talk to people. I realize that there's a gap. I build something and try to validate it with users, and like this is a whole circular loop which is like just talking to users, reaching out to users, and like just validating, and like it's like this is a whole science experiment, right? And usually when I have to just present my solution in front of users, I usually don't my initial intuition is to not choose something which is very pristine. It is to choose something which works well, which is stable, and which can like get get me a prototype or like a solution very fast. So nowadays, most of my time does not like goes into engineering. Like for sure, I like keep up to date with like all the AI stuff and like what are the current capabilities of the model. But like with solution and like with something to show to users, sometimes it does not have to necessarily work. Sometimes um, a gimmicky solution also portrays the imagination or just like puts across the imagination or the kind of problem that you are trying to solve. The like after talking to a lot of users, I've realized that this whole idea of building and like simultaneously building and like talking to users is you talk to users, you get some insight, and you try to build something in a very scrappy way and try to show it to the users. Um, it does not matter whether it is scrappy or not because the reaction will tell you whether you have fully conveyed your imagination or vision to them. So yeah, in my opinion, I actually don't know or like what is an underrated tech. I am using Convex, which is a React for backend, um, for like shipping my current platform, and it is great. I don't have to write CRUD endpoints and like REST endpoints, and I do not have to maintain a separate vector database, separate Postgres database, which is good. It helps me ship faster. One more thing which I've been tinkering around is ESP32 in general. Um, if you're vibe coding slop, why not vibe code hardware slops, right? Like the greatest ambition for technology is to move us closer to science fiction, right? So, and that involves us building cool hardware projects for us. So yeah, I don't resonate with this question enough, but this would be my response. Most impressive person that you have ever DM'd. I have DM'd a lot of folks in general, which were like much later in their career journey compared to me, and like which like all of them were like very, very impressive. But if I had to like just pick a few, when I was in college, I cold DM'd Gagan Biani, which is like who's the founder of Udemy, and asked him for a job and sent him my portfolio website. He actually gave me a constructive criticism on portfolio that it takes like too many clicks to get to what I'm doing. So that was very helpful. And the second most impressive person that I've ever DM'd, or like I think like the most impressive person that I've ever DM'd is Tyler Cowen. I have this theory that in status-driven societies, gated societies are economic positive because your society events, the catering orders goes to someone who's inside the society, and gym, which is usually seen as a luxury in India, is becomes a zero-sum activity where if like your neighbor is going to work out, you'll also go to work out, right? So it's just a net positive for your body. And even if you're like just walking around the gated complex, like doing gossip or like whatever, right? You're still walking. So it's just like a net positive. It's a self-sustaining economy. So yeah, the short story is I DM cold email Tyler Cowen asking whether it's net positive and whether in his opinion is it net positive or not. And this was his response. He thinks that it is boring but necessary. So yeah, continuing. This is one more question I like used to like I've spent a lot of time thinking about, but in general, like my answer is like not very um for like shaped on this, which is like your what is your most contrarian opinion? So before starting a startup, as everyone does, I read Zero to One and chapter 8, I still remember, is this book about secrets where Peter Thiel talks about like an idea which is very controversial in nature, and your whole task is to make it a convention, and it is something, an idea which like the world thinks is crazy or like does not believe in, right? And for a very long time, that idea was like people will not talk to users and interfaces will be more dynamic, which is not contrarian anymore now with like current LLM capabilities. I think interfaces, like people are starting to experiment with interfaces and like everyone like has this vision of like interfaces being dynamic. So it's not contrarian anymore. Second contrarian view which I had was kids will write books and novels for kids because just creation is becoming easier, right? And like just with AI, like the whole idea is to like just accelerate your learning. The question is not like whether you choose humanities, science, or commerce now. It's like why can't you build rockets, or why can't you build cars, or why can't you like just do more ambitious things now that like now that AI is into the picture, like why can't you like accelerate your learning, right? Which is the traditional model of like grade one, two, three, and like just like so on in college, where like you'd get a compressed set of learning skills is not valid anymore. Like, oh, like why not at fifth standard you'd be deriving new equations, or in general, like with like what I am doing also is doing building a startup in like customer success space, and I'm an engineer by background, and like from an outside perspective, it is just compressing. It is just like having to learn the whole industry and the whole domain faster compared to my competitors, and like just like having the ability to compress all that learning which I'm getting like from talking to people, and just like materializing it into something that is useful for people in many aspects. And it's a very difficult thing. Like there are blog posts, there are YouTube videos, and they're like this, like it's not a new domain, right? Like there's like a plethora of knowledge about this domain. But as like a startup founder, your whole job is to kind of like accelerate your learning. So that was one more contrarian opinion I had. But in general, the like my pet peeve with this question is, and I think Naval mentioned it once, that Peter Thiel, when he mentioned in startup school back then, um, that like competition is for losers in general, and you have to pick something which is very unique, or like something that the world does not know about. It works for him in general, which is in his portfolio he does not want competition, or he does not want people or like competing with other people. It makes his job a little bit easier, like quoting Naval, and I think it makes sense, right? Everyone who's just built a startup or built any project knows that there is an infinite amount of iterations needed to reach to a point, and it is just a continual learning, and it's just a continual learning progress in general. Like you start with building something, and then the shape of what you're building currently like is very different from what you started, right? I started with like this whole idea of onboarding builder, which I might someday build, but what I'm currently building and the shape and nature of like in the form factor, everything is just very, very different. So um like just I've just spent too much time thinking about like, okay, what's my contrarian bet and what's my contrarian bet. Um, it this mental model makes more sense to me, that like I have to like iterate my way through like to something unique which people have not yet reached in general. And it's just like your speed of iteration and like your ability to generate unique knowledge, like how many unique insights can you generate, and like the whole game is for you to be able to do it faster compared to other people. So yeah, that was my answer to this question. um these two questions no one has asked me, but I think people will ask me, why can't others build it? For sure, people can build what I'm building, right? Like I think with the cost of like code becoming a zero, just product differentiation in general is dying, and everyone is just building. But why can't people do it is bunch of reasons. I think we overestimate how much agency people have and how much curious people can be in general. Um, we overestimate how much care people will put into like their product and how good will the product be, right? But in an ideal scenario, let's say someone else builds it, right? I'm always in for a healthy competition, right? In a game of football also, sometimes you are full defense and sometimes you're full offense, right? And you'll always see gaps to pass the ball to your player, and that is how I visualize this in general, which is people may build it, but it is how like efficiently and how like in like how much faster can you generate unique knowledge and insight and just materialize them to just outcompete your competition in general. And now, especially with like AI and code becoming a commodity, human relationships have like just started to matter more and more. And I think like I have this unique ability to become very good friends with people and just just like maintain that relationship. I still am in touch with my school friends, college friends, everyone that I've met. So I think that's a huge moat in general of like even if you like build it, I'm very closer to the people who are actually using it. And like no amount of building features can ever compete with like your closeness to whoever you're building it for. So yeah, that is my answer for this question. The last question is this classic question, build versus buy, and I'd like to ask this every 3 months. Now with like AI in the picture, it's like the time frame is like reducing. Um, and I've been recently thinking about this whole build versus buy situation, and it brings me back to that point where like we overestimate how much agency people has and how much they can maintain a stuff, right? I mean, like initial burst of curiosity obviously happens where you'd like your initial response would be to build it for yourself, right? But just maintaining and everything is an overhead, right? And right now, my answer to this question is I have to build something so valuable and so pleasurable that shifting to like for my users shifting to their original solution would be a downgrade. Like if there's a comparison between like outsourcing that solution to me and outsourcing the solution to like themselves, I just want to outcompete them on that like on that aspect. Sometimes when you are very much into the domain, you are unable to see from an outside perspective what do you need to build like to build it for a generalized audience, and like you hyperfixate on the workflows and like your specific workflows, which might be good, but in real life, I think it does not translate when like the amount like the number of people grows. And in general, I think like in softwares, like hyperfixation does not like translate well. We are soon reaching a point where interfaces, which I truly believe that interfaces will be multidimensional and interfaces will be unique for each user. And at that point, I think like my answer to this question would be very different. But for now, I think my entire objective is to build something so useful that it takes actually a lot of effort and a lot of context and like a lot of project management for companies to build it themselves, and the original solution actually feels like a downgrade. The last thing, and these were all the questions that like were asked, and like I read some of the questions. Um, few people have told me that when I was like pitching in general my solution and like in general talking about my solution, um, customer context obviously comes up, right? Because you need customer context to power what I'm building. And I have heard from people in general, which is a customer context is a solved problem. Um, This is a this is a general note to anyone building that um, there are always solutions in general, and like people think that like it's solved, right? But more noise means more like space for people to build something truly valuable. Even Mendeleev, when he was working on the periodic table. Mendeleev was not the only person working on the periodic table. There were multiple people who were like working on periodic table at the same time. It is just Mendeleev's adaptation had such great pattern recognition and such ease of making sense of the world and like the world building in general that it got widely adopted. So it's just that like I think with solutions and like with like problems also in like competitive space and like we're getting into competitive space with AI. I think um what truly gets adapted truly depends on the form factor and like how close you are to your users and uh like what your building ethos are, and like just the raw building principles, right? Like there are different versions to different things, which if the counter argument goes like this, right? Like if there were no different versions, and if in a world you just build one solution, like if you just build one Uber, and then like there's no need for Lyft or Ola or any other service, right? And it could just solve all of these problems that would truly make us non-unique as human beings, because one thing that differentiates us from LLMs in general is our unique ability to think and just add our own mixture or just remix solutions. So Yeah, I think like people will have different versions of like their own solutions, and it is just which whose solution gets more adoption and gets represents the world in a way where it gets widely accepted by people. Whenever I this is my opinion on this. Whenever we're like just building something or like just like solving for a particular problem, it's just as Alex Danko puts it, is a form of gift giving, right? But uh, we all have like different versions of like world models in our head, and um, the solution which like resembles the world in the most simplifying way gets adapted. Does not matter if like there are like n number of competitors. It is, I in my perspective, always simplicity. So yeah, these were some questions that I wanted to answer for myself. So yeah.